Now we're going to see a few examples of code that we're going to run and execute within the ChatGPT. So that's going to be with code interpreter. So you're going to make sure that this is selected, GPT-4, and that code interpreter is checked. So we're going to start with a first example. We're going to use the same data from a previous exercise. First, I'm going to ask write a function to find even numbers. That's going to be my first request. And let's see the outputs. Okay, very simple. So the output is this function written in Python, which is to iterate over an array and check if a number is divisible by 2 and check if this is 0. If this is 0, this means that this is even, otherwise this is odd. So next, I'm going to ask run this function with the array, the following array, and that's going to be a mix of even and odd numbers. Let's try that, and you're going to see what happens. So what's happening here is that within ChatGPT, we're going to run the code, execute the code within a Python sandboxed environment. And here is the result. We can see that from the given array, the result of the even numbers is 4, 10, and 34. We can collapse and see the details of the work. So it runs the same function to check which number is even from this array. And we can see that the result is 4, 10, and 34. And this is like a console. This looks like the same console that we see in the browser. So I am providing you with a few instructions in order to create prompts. And we're going to start with this data set, which is actually the same that we used in a previous example, which is the list of the top 10 applications with the number of users. So let's copy this and paste it inside the chatbot in the input. We're going to see what is the result. So it's going to give us, of course, a description. And because it was written originally in JavaScript, it's going to convert the code in Python because within this environment, everything is run and executed in Python. And now it is asking, so what we would like to do with this data. So that's great because what we would like to do is to create some data visualization. So this is actually the next request that I have provided here. So we're going to copy, create data visualization in a table. Let's try that. And you're going to see that here as well, it's going to work. It's going to start working within the sandboxed environment. And you can actually collapse and see the process as this is going, if you'd like. Okay, so it started to create the table to represent the data of the top 10 applications and the number of users in billions. Okay, so that's great. And after that, this is giving us a description of this representation. Excellent. So next, what I'd like is to have a representation in dynamic charts. Let's do that. That's going to be kind of the same request. It's going to create visuals for us. So here as well, it's going to run this within a sandboxed environment. And here as well, you can open and see how this is being processed as it goes. So here is the result of the data visualization with dynamic charts. And after that, you've got a description. And in this example, looks like this is Facebook, which has the biggest share of users among the top 10 applications. So next, we're going to ask, do the same with a pie chart. Let's see. Excellent, here it is. And we've got, of course, here as well, an explanation telling us that each slice of the pie chart represents one web application. And the size, which is represented in percentage, represents the portion, the distribution of users. And here as well, because this is Facebook, which is using up like the largest portion of users, it has 21.8%. We can see that it has the highest size, the biggest size. Okay, so that's great. So next, what I need to do is to prepare a presentation. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT with Code Interpreter to create a slide deck. So let's go back here to our instructions, and we're going to write this instruction, so this long detailed prompt that says create a well-formatted report and write this to a Word document, then create a PowerPoint presentation with the analyzed and visualized dataset with other insights, if possible. So let's copy the whole thing and paste it here. So of course, you are free to write your own prompts based on your needs and use cases. So here as well, it's going to run this within a sandbox environment. And we're going to wait because this may take quite some time. Okay, so here is the output. As soon as it's finished, we can read that it has created a Word document that includes the data, the insight, the visualizations. So we first have here this link, which is available to download the results of the work in a Word document. So I'm going to open it while this is working for the rest of the preparation. Okay, so here is the result. So written in a Word document. And first we have an explanation of this report with the data set, the insights, and followed by the data representations in bar charts and also the pie charts. So this is a good starting point. Let's see what we have now this time. So this is still working. We're going to see what's going to be the results for our presentation, but this time by using slides. It's going to create a slide deck for us. Okay, so it finally created a PowerPoint presentation that is available, downloadable with this link. So I'm going to click it. Here we go. I'm going to open it with Keynote. And while this is being opened, I just want to show you the different steps that it took to process this request, because looks like ChatGPT and Code Interpreter ran into some issues and sometimes some content was missing. So the work that it has done is to fill in the blanks in order to be able to proceed and achieve the task, which is to create a presentation. So for the second attempt, looks like there was a placeholder or a title that was missing, and that was causing the error. So Code Interpreter was able to fix this by adding manually a title. So it is able also to compensate if there is anything missing. And after the fourth attempt, it was finally able to finish the work with this result, and we're going to look at it. Here in Keynote, we've got this presentation of the data set, some insights, and finally the data visualization. So this is a good starting point. Of course, you're going to need to make some updates to make it to change it and polish it, but this is a good starting point. So the sandbox provides a temporary disk space to store the documents and the assets for a limited time. So the language models run with a working Python interpreter in a sandboxed execution environment, along with some disk space to execute the code safely. So the code in the assets will persist for as long as the session is up and running. With Code Interpreter, you can do a lot of things extra with ChatGPT, like creating data visualizations from text input or from a dataset. You can download the files, and you're going to see later that it is also possible to upload assets right into the chatbot. So it is possible to create data visualizations and presentations. It is like accessing a computer right inside the chatbot, and it is useful both for general tasks and coding tasks. Up next, we're going to see an example of a 2D game with graphics and assets, and we're going to build this with Code Interpreter.